How do you move? Pardon me. How do you move beyond local performances to major orchestras? I mean, from colleges and recordings. How did that arc happen?
That actually happened by accident. This is a frequent question I get from composers because this is really hard. You get the first performance, it's not that hard, but boy, having pieces done beyond that first performance, it's really difficult. It happened by accident. Actually, it just was, I was writing music, and occasionally what would happen, I would write a piece that a particular player would like, and they would tell someone else. I think the first pieces were for flute, where this started. They would tell other flute players, and those flute players would call and say, I hear you have a piece for my instrument. So I tell students to write for unusual instruments that don't have a lot of literature. So flutes, saxophones, percussion, saxophone quartet, flute choir is a big one. Now, can you imagine a whole bunch of flutes getting together and playing? But there are flute choirs everywhere in this country. They're hiding somewhere. I bet there's one in this town, actually. But writing for the instruments that don't have a lot of repertoire. And what happens for, I think, a lot of artists is you end up having opportunities that come up that could go two ways. The opportunity could come up and it might not develop into anything, or it might just absolutely take off. And I tell my students, you have to do the best you can because you don't know where that piece is going to go. And it just happens that I had a couple of lucky incidences where I was ushering in a concert. Someone was talking to me and they said, oh, would you be interested in writing a piece? And then someone else heard that piece and they said, well, would you write something for our group? And then eventually an orchestra asked me if I would write a piece, the Oregon Symphony, and I said yes. They said, well, you only got a couple of weeks to do this. So I did it. And then someone in Philly heard a recording of that piece and they gave it to the artistic administrator in the Philadelphia Orchestra, who called me up one day and said, we're commissioning a bunch of pieces and we'd like you to write one. And after I fainted, because I thought no one calls on the phone like that and says, you want to write a piece for the Philadelphia Orchestra? So I wrote a piece for the orchestra, and that piece launched just by coincidence that the administrator decided to program it on the American Symphony Orchestra League conference. So it was done in front of 3,000 orchestra managers, the most skeptical crowd you could ever encounter. And I actually thought, as I was standing backstage and the orchestra was playing, because I was so nervous I couldn't sit out in the house, I was afraid I would be ill. So I stood backstage and I thought, well, my entire life is going down the tubes in this 30 minutes. I'm going to be working at McDonald's tomorrow. I was literally standing back there thinking, I'm going to be working at McDonald's tomorrow, because orchestra managers have heard everything. And I thought, how the heck am I going to pull this off? And so, but it actually went well. And boy, was I surprised. The phone started ringing the next day. But it was a weird series of coincidences. It was just trying to do the best work that I could. Now we have the internet. I think it's easier to get your music out there. I tell young artists, put up a website, whether you're a painter or a writer or you're doing sound files, because people are always searching on the web. They're always looking for stuff.
Yeah. We had like 1,300 hits, people looking at your Concerto for Three review. I was so happy. She had 2 world premieres within 2 weeks with Leonard Bernstein Festival just this last January.
Poor Lenny only had like 20 minutes on the concert, though. I was like,
yeah.
I had like an hour and Lenny had 10, 20. I felt kind of bad about that, actually.
It was awesome.
It was really scary. He thought it was awesome, and I thought it was scary. I'm like, 2 new orchestra pieces to put up a week apart. I didn't sleep for like a month. I really didn't sleep for a month, so it was pretty intense. But it was fun. Every composer should have that opportunity.
Well, writing these works, 2 that you know are going to be premiered back-to-back, and you have yet another concerto that's coming up. I just saw Baltimore's doing it, a concerto for violinist Hilary Hahn.
Yeah.
How is it to keep all these? Because, I mean, there was the percussion concerto, and then there were these great pieces for violin and piano, and now these, it was a concerto for violin, chorus, and orchestra, and a bluegrass concerto that had 2 violins and bass.
That was hard. The bluegrass concerto was difficult. That was really, and I knew these were going to end up getting played in close proximity, so you want to make them different enough. But it's not easy, because I'm writing a violin concerto now, and I just wrote a violin concerto, so my brain is, I have to confess, struggling. But I try to write every day.
Yeah.
I try to write every single day if I possibly can, and I usually in a year I can do between 5 and 12 works. But that's actually how I make my living. So I don't have a full-time teaching job, which takes up a lot of time and energy if you've got that. But I get to sit and daydream a lot now in my studio with a cat standing there scratching my leg and It works okay. I have to confess, I pinch myself every day. I really do. I think, oh my gosh, I get to get up and write music, and then I think, how did I get this? I don't see how it is that I was lucky enough to do it. So I take it very seriously as a responsibility, and I write every piece like it's the last piece I'm going to be allowed to write. I actually think that. I'm like, well, you know what? I shouldn't wait for anything. I should just go out there and try to write the best music that I can, because it could be the last piece I get to write.
We're very glad you're writing it.
Well, thank
very
you.
Glad. Very glad. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah. Composer Jennifer Higdon appearing this evening and tomorrow with the Harrisburg Symphony Orchestra. There's pre-concert talks. If you did not get enough Jennifer Higdon, there's more.
Even more. And a post-concert talk if you want to weigh in on what you thought afterwards.
Yeah, a talk back. And then also going to be in Lancaster, 5 performances with not only the Sea Symphony, but movement of Cityscape. Want to say thanks to Meet the Composer. We actually got a grant from Meet the Composer to bring Jennifer in today for this, and we really appreciate them. Composing Thoughts, of course, is a production of WITF Harrisburg. You can learn more about it online at witf.org. Today's program recorded and edited by Joe Ulrich and Casey Houts. Our music director is Dick Strauser, and our WITF Director of Radio is Mitzi Trossel. I'm John Clare. Thanks for coming in today.